Tired of tempestuous, egocentric superstars? Well, you're going to get a break. In this lecture, we turn to our third High Renaissance superstar, Raphael Sanzio da Urbino, Raphael of Urbino. He was, according to numerous testimonies by contemporaries, a genuinely nice guy. This short clip will also give you a glimpse of many of his paintings. Although he died young at 37, Raphael left a large body of work. Raphael was born and raised in Urbino under the reign of its warrior humanist duke, whom we've met before. His father was a court painter in Urbino, who apprenticed him to Perugino, another painter that we've encountered in an earlier lecture. The cultured civility of his hometown and the gentle landscape of the surrounding countryside would both heavily influence Raphael's work. Now you can see here how Raphael pretty quickly grew beyond his teacher and learned from other Renaissance masters. Notice the comparison between the landscapes, however. This video clip will give you a sense of Raphael's Umbria, the background for this and for so many of his paintings. Here's an early altarpiece, which, while still rather stiffly composed, reveals Raphael's growing talent for portraiture. And here are the paintings on the predella. Remember predellas? We see here, I admit it's a little blurry, the Annunciation, the Adoration of the Magi, and the Presentation of the Temple. So what influence do you see from Perugino and other early Renaissance painters? Well, there's the careful and precise use of perspective, highlighted in this case by the floor tiles. We've seen that before. The classical architecture, including, in this case, Doric columns and groin vaults. The smaller paintings of the predella, however, also reveal Raphael's growing skill with color and with portraiture. Let's check out one more short video clip where you get a better look at this particular work. And here is the Marriage of the Virgin, which you also just saw in the video. Notice, by the way, his incredible color. Now, this painting dates from Raphael's Florentine period. So what painter was exercising an especially strong influence over Raphael at this point? And how can you tell? Well, if you guess Leonardo, you're right. So notice the pyramidal composition and the setting of the Madonna in a beautiful landscape in both of these two famous works. No halos, no thrones. We also see chiaroscuro and even a hint of sfumato in the Raphael Madonna. See those slightly blurred boundaries, although in general, I think he has a cleaner and simpler use of line than Leonardo. And Raphael's Madonnas, he painted a lot of them, are sweeter and maybe a little less mysterious than Leonardo's. So there's a little bit of a Mona Lisa smile there. And of course, his setting is the gentler, less dramatic, and less fantastical landscape of his native Umbria. So here's a later Madonna, not a lot later, since he didn't live very long, only to 37, I believe, a sadly short life. At this point, the painter had moved to Rome and gained Pope Julius II's sponsorship. And by the way, Raphael's charm was one of the reasons why he gained such prominence in Rome. You may recall Michelangelo was jealous of this. Michelangelo had many wonderful qualities, but charm was not among them. So here, you note the mystical setting, the greater three-dimensional bulk of the figures. Again, I'm comparing it with the earlier Madonna. But once again, Raphael employs the highly stable triangular or pyramidal composition so typical of the High Renaissance. I should also note that the triangle has a theological significance. What would you guess that is? Well, three sides of the Trinity, God in three persons. Do you remember also the term for a painting that includes figures that lived at different periods of time? In this case, the female saint is Saint Barbara, who, by the way, is the patron saint of armorers and military engineers. Remember, this was the warrior pope. And in fact, the kneeling saint, the early Christian saint, has the face of Julius II. So to return to my question, sorry, I got a little distracted. This is a Sacra Conversazione. They're not actually necessarily conversing, but they come from different time periods. By the way, the little angels at the bottom are famous. You've undoubtedly seen them on posters. But again, they really show Raphael's remarkable talent for capturing individual expression and really a kind of sweetness. In that, he reminds me of Botticelli. But he wasn't all sweetness. And in fact, he was a brilliant portraiture. You know, I will make a confession. I like his portraits best of all of Raphael's work. I like portraits in general, the way you have kind of a window into individuals. The figure on the left is Castiglione, who wrote The Courtier, and this is, in fact, a portrait of him. He was a fellow gentleman of Urbino. But I include the portrait of the woman because Raphael, unlike our previous two superstars, preferred girls to boys in his personal life. And maybe as a result, he paints women with great sensitivity and affection. So here's another video clip, which shows, I really included because it shows a range of his portraits and again, his debt to Leonardo. So here's another late work by Raphael. What developments are you seeing in his work? Well, the composition is still pyramidal, especially Galatea's body, but there's much more movement here, especially when you compare it to the earlier Madonna of the Meadows. Now, which painter is Raphael channeling now? By the way, you see the comparison to the Hellenistic sculpture of the Gaul committing suicide. Clearly, Raphael was influenced by Hellenistic sculpture, but the painting on the left is Michelangelo's Sibyl, or one of them. Raphael's Galatea looks more like a woman than Michelangelo's figure, but she's still more muscular than Raphael's earlier women, and the twisted torso, the dynamic pose, the movement, all of this shows the influence of Michelangelo. Raphael, by the way, got to sneak in. In fact, it teed Michelangelo off no end, but he was allowed to sneak in and see the Sistine Chapel while it was being painted, and it immediately influenced his work. By the way, Raphael was a lot more generous about acknowledging his influences and crediting other artists with their talent. He even immortalized some of his fellow artists in what would turn out to be his most famous painting and a perennial on the AP Art History exam. There we have it, the School of Athens. You've already seen a podcast, I hope, on this, so I won't dwell too long, but this fresco was painted for the Sala della Segnatura, the room where the Pope now signs official papal documents. But actually, at the time this was painted, it was Julius II's private library, and the paintings reflect his wide intellectual interests. One of the many reasons why art historians love this painting is they get to spot the famous guy. So here are a few famous contemporaries of Raphael masquerading as Greek sages. And here's a Raphael himself painted into the portrait, into the School of Athens. As your textbook notes, Plato is pointing to the heavens, reflecting his more abstract concerns, very appropriate for Leonardo, while Aristotle, more grounded, more scientific, more oriented toward observation, is pointing to the earth. Similarly, the red of Plato's tunic symbolizes fire or spirit, which rises up. The brown symbolizes earth and maybe also water. So here we get a glimpse of the entire room, obviously, too much detail to really take in. But again, you see the range of the Pope's intellectual interests and what a humanist depiction this is. Well, now that we've sped through Raphael, we're going to really speed through Venice.